this is CA glue, or better known as super glue, and in most cases you can find it in clear, and sometimes in black and brown. But what if you want more colors? Well, unfortunately, you can't just go out and buy them. But I had an idea. Now this is mica powder, commonly used with epoxy to get those beautiful colors, for example, like river tables and other designs like that. Plus it comes in a wide variety of colors, making our options almost endless. So is it possible to combine mica powder and CA glue? I don't know, so let's find out. Now there are two things we need to remember about CA glue. First off, the set time, or how long it takes before it actually starts to hold, is very minimal, so we gotta mix it very quickly. And secondly, if we add too much powder to this glue, that bond might be unusable. Also on another note, CA glue can be found in thin, medium, and thick. And with all of those variables, I can see why adding color to CA glue is not a common practice. So let's do it anyway. Now if you've ever used CA glue and got it on your clothing, it can be a challenge to get off. So I'm going to use a shop apron for this experiment to hopefully protect them, and I'm going to use a silicone mat to hopefully protect my workbench as well. The plan is to mix the powder and the glue in these little plastic cups, stir it up with this little dowel, and then hopefully be able to pour it in one of these little holes that I drilled in this wood. I believe I'm going to use the thin CA glue first because according to the back it has the fastest set time. In this case it says 10 seconds. That's not much time. So I believe I'm going to put the powder in first and then add the CA glue, stir really quickly, and hopefully be able to pour it in time. I've used this mica powder in the past before, and I know a little bit goes a long way, so I'm just going to use the stick to hopefully go in here and tap a little bit in. Do that a couple times. And I'm going to see if that's enough. It doesn't look like much, but let's give it a shot. And so I don't accidentally glue my fingers together, I'm going to put some gloves on as well. Now let's add some glue and see if this will work. Let's mix real quick. I have a feeling I probably could have used a little bit more of the powder. It's slowly turning. Let's see if we can pour it. Looking a little bit closer, we can tell it has kind of a pink hue to it. But let's try it again with a little more powder. Now it is surprising looking in the cup that some of this glue is still liquid in the bottom down there. And you might be able to use this in just a continually mixed stuff. But I want to use a fresh cup so we can compare the two. I've added quite a bit more powder in this one, so let's see how well it mixes. What's funny is, I'm not sure if you could tell, but that powder is now glued to the bottom of the cup. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but yeah, let me see if I can pour some powder on top of that while you're watching and see if it's going to do the same or if there's just some kind of weird reaction going on with this powder and the glue. I dumped just a good bit in there. Definitely much more than I'd recommend, but here, let's just try this experiment. Now we'll try and mix this together. Oh, I don't know exactly how to explain it. Let's see if I can show you. It's turning hard as soon as it hits the glue. That is very cool and also very strange in itself. After testing the thin glue, I have a feeling that it's just not gonna work with this mica because it's literally just adhering that mica, just gluing it together as soon as it hits, not giving it a chance to thoroughly mix in and give that color throughout. So thin, well, it's out. Now I've changed the color. I'm gonna give medium a shot. The color seems to be mixing in a little bit better. Definitely, well, a lot better than the thin. Now let's see if we can pour this. Oh yeah, that's working a lot better. Alright, as you can tell there, the green definitely mixed in a lot better than the red. Oh, I smell smoke. Ooh, that's something smoking. I'm not sure if you can see it, but that's smoking right there. Wow. Alright, I just had to air out my shop because this didn't produce a ton of smoke, but I'm sure those chemicals in the air, I didn't want to breathe. So I just had to open a couple doors and vent it out for a while. But let's take a closer look at this cup. Looking at the bottom of this cup, you can see it is clearly melted, and the glue that we poured in here, it was dried almost immediately. Compared to the thin stuff we used earlier, it's still somewhat liquid. But this medium, my goodness, it produced a ton of heat and dried very, very quick. Here's a little warning. Do not try and mix a packet of this mica inside your glue bottle, because if it was to react like it just did in this little cup, there's a very good chance this will get so hot it'll melt the bottle, possibly burn you and burn whatever it is touching. So please don't mix it in this bottle. Mix it in a little cup if you're gonna do this. Now that I got my nerves calmed back down, let's try it with a thick and a little bit of this blue tint. Let's see what happens there. Ooh, this is so thick, it's hard to squeeze. I'm also going to put a little bit less of the glue in here than I did with the other. Well, it is mixing nicely. And of course, it is much more difficult to pour. Let's see if I can. Very difficult to pour. Let me add a little bit more of the glue in it. Hopefully it'll still work. This. A little bit hard to tell, but this thick has started to smoke just a little bit as well, and getting hard quick as well too. If we look at the side of the cup here, you can see it got hot enough to start melting it. Doesn't appear like it got hot as the green one did, but then again, I didn't have nearly as much glue in this blue one than the thick version versus the medium. Now, other than the smoke from these two cups, I'd say the most surprising thing is looking over here at the thin CA glue. It's still somewhat liquid, and yet it's supposed to set the fastest. So I think what I'm going to try and do is use some accelerator and see if that actually works. Whew. As you can see, maybe right here it smoked a little bit, and it is getting hard. So the glue was still good, but it's just weird that it did not react like these other two did. Now, after testing all three, I believe if we want to add color to some CA glue, the medium glue would probably be the best to work with. It just seemed like it gave us enough time to get it stirred and then poured in before it started to catalyze. But I do have a question, and that's with the thin. I mean, it sat there for several minutes and didn't even attempt to start to dry, or to cure. And so I'm wondering, maybe if we use some of the green tint in the thin, would that change anything? Let's give it a shot. I put a bunch of green powder down in the bottom of that cup. Let's add some thin. Well, it seems like it worked a little bit better, but let's see if I can pull this out. There's still a big clump. Oh, and if you can see it, there is smoke starting to pour out of this. Look at the bottom of that cup. It formed kind of like hills and valleys. It's kind of cool. If we look at the bottom there, it is definitely melted and still warm to the touch. Now, obviously, we had a completely different reaction with the green over the red. So obviously there was something different between the powders. The only thing I can figure off the bat is maybe there was a different moisture content in the bags. I would think that the green probably had a higher moisture content than the red, because I've always been told that if you can have water or just slightly sprinkled on CA glue or super glue, that it will cure a lot faster. I have not tested that, but that's what I've always heard. Also, if you want a way to actually keep your CA glue or super glue, make it last a lot longer, is to actually store these in your refrigerator, because that refrigeration process pulls the moisture out of the air. And I actually have had super glue that should have went bad that is almost 4 years old and it still works great. So remember, stick it in the refrigerator. But before we call this a conclusion, I wanted to do one more test with some mica powder and this little silicone mold that looks kind of like Legos, but whatever. We want to mix some CA glue and mica powder in these to see if this will actually take form and hold. So let's give that a shot. In this case, I'm going to use a craft stick to kind of pour this in place. We don't have to fill these up all the way, but I'm going to get it kind of close. And then, once I have some powder in here, it'd be a good idea to kind of bounce this a little bit. Hopefully it won't be too messy. We want to make sure that the powder gets in all those little valleys if possible. I'm going to use the thin glue in this setup with the hopes that it reaches the bottom of those holes and hopefully forms a solid piece. Here we go. Oop, you can already see smoking. See a little bit of smoking happen, but it stopped. See if I can get it to maybe go down a little further. I have a feeling the same problem that happened with the red. Yeah, it's already gotten hard on the top. It appears that the reaction has stopped, so I'm going to pour the excess into this cup with the hopes that we can then see whatever reaction has taken place. Let's flip these things upside down and see if it's actually worked. Well, oh, well, the glue is definitely sticking to me. Oh, nope. As you can see there, it crystallized on the top of the powder there, but did not get mixed in. Try the second one here. Yep, same thing. Quick little learning lesson. I chose a silicone mold because it usually works pretty good with epoxy. You can usually pull out the molds that you have made and separate everything real easily. But apparently not with super glue. So if you plan on using this kind of experiment or trying to make something like this, be prepared, your silicone mold is gonna probably get destroyed. Now I still have a good bit of this mica powder that I poured out. Let's see if we can create like a little valley in the center here. And I'm gonna pour some of this medium CA glue right inside and to see if there's any kind of reaction. It's slowly absorbing into the powder. Probably should have used this one when I was doing the mold. Let's see if we mix it together a little bit. Oh, it's already starting to get hard around the sides. Oop. Hopefully you can see that smoking starting. It's kind of hard to pick up here, but anyway, it is definitely, whew, that is strong odor. Wow, need some ventilation. So is it possible to color CA glue? To an extent, yes. Of course, it depends on the viscosity. I end up preferring the medium. It seemed to give me enough time to stir and pour. It also depends on the color of your mica powder. I'm guessing there's probably a little different, chemical makeup in the colors that may or may not react with the CA glue. I'm not exactly sure, but that would be my guess. Now, in the process of putting all this together and finishing this video, I discovered an actual video from the TKOR channel, or the King of Random. Now, this video is really cool because they make flour and sugar and cinnamon and different other powders with the CA glue to see what they could make with it and see how it would react. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you will love that video as well. I'll put a link to that in the description, so make sure you check that out. Otherwise, I don't do many of these experiment videos, and so I'm intrigued on if you like this or not. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to hear on whether you would like to see more of these videos or less of these videos. So I'm going to leave that up to you. Otherwise, get out in your shop and have fun building.